Today we have with us a very special guest, a dear friend of mine and of the University of La Verne and the whole world if they knew her. Her name is Cornelia Ortmayer. May I go ahead and just call you Corny? I feel a lot more comfortable about that. Cornelia Ortmayer. Now Ortmayer, that's a name I've heard somewhere before. It seems like it's been in the news somewhat, and something about Sports Illustrated and network news. That wasn't you, was it?
Oh, no, that was my better half.
Your better half?
Yes.
All right, this is...
a gentleman I've known for about 50 years.
Well, those who have been associated with the University of La Verne know all about Ort and Corny, and we like to think, those of us who know and love you, that that goes together, Ort and Corny. Ort gets a lot of the attention, and the women today probably wouldn't want to say, behind every man is a good woman. That's kind of an old saying. Because you've been your own person.
Okay, how do you feel about being behind the scenes in that role for so many years, seeing all that you've seen throughout the years?
You mean being the wife of Ortmayer?
Exactly.
It's been great.
Yeah?
Yeah.
In what way?
I've enjoyed everything that he's done, as he's enjoyed everything that I've done. And it's, well, all I can say is La Verne is special.
And it's a match made in heaven, the Ortmayers, huh?
Well, I wouldn't know about heaven. It was made in Kingsport, Tennessee, if you really want to know.
All right. Thanks for that tip. I appreciate that. Okay.
Tell us about coming to California. When did this happen?
Well, we arrived in La Verne September the 1st, I think it was, 1948.
1948.
Mm-hmm.
And you had a map about how to get here.
Oh, you know, back then the gas stations would do a map for you and draw a line. So when we got to Pasadena, the map just had a big circle and said, well, we couldn't find La Verne, but it's in that circle.
It's somewhere there.
Yes. Somewhere around Pasadena, they said.
Well, what were your first impressions? I suspect that the city of La Verne looked much different at that time.
Oh my, yes. We drove down D Street and the orange trees just overlapped and there were oranges in the gutter and just like paradise, you know.
And what about the town itself? What were your first impressions? Did you have regrets about coming to California?
Oh no, never, never, never. We had some very good friends here that we had met before. And no, I'm originally from a small town in Tennessee. And no, it was just, you could just feel that it was just a friendly place to be.
What brought about the decision to come to California?
Well, you know, Ort was coaching in Oskaloosa, Iowa at that time at William Penn College. And on the very same day, we got a letter from the sister college in Kansas.
McPherson?
McPherson, and from La Verne. Now, I'm from Tennessee.
A southern gal.
Oh, yes. And then we were married and lived in Washington. And then we
Washington
went to
State.
Washington State.
Northwest.
My mother thought it was a jumping off place. And then we went to Rochester, New York for a while, and then we were in Iowa. So this part of the country was the one place that we hadn't been. So we decided, well, let's go down to the Southwest for a while.
We had met in the Southeast. We had lived in the Northwest. We had lived in the Northeast. We had lived in mid-America. We went Southwest, and it was La Verne.
When I went to teach in Tennessee, I met a young lady, very much by accident. I met her because her phone was out of order, and so I have a little story that I tell. So glad that not all phones work, because she came to a neighbor that I happened to be visiting. His son was my quarterback, and to use a phone because of her phone. So I met this young lady,
Southern belle.
Yeah, it seemed very exciting to me. In fact, too much for me, really. I saw her as being something very fascinating, but you probably best not touch. You get burnt.
So that was your decision. We've seen the other parts of the country.
That's
Let's
right.
go to the Southwest.
So, well, as I said, we had some friends out here too. And we thought we'd come and stay for a couple of years.
Ort came to coach.
Well, I came with him.
You came with the deal then?
Yes, I came. I just sort of a package deal. You know, you've heard about those.
Well, you're a woman in transition to some degrees. You fit some of the traditional roles of the wife and mother, and yet those who know you know that you have your own agenda for what you want to do with your life. Tell us a little bit about that,
I've been very lucky,
please.
Bill. I have been very lucky in that Ort has let me be me. And I think that's why we've been married for 47 years. And I was a teacher. My parents told me when they sent me to college, Cornelia, don't even think about marriage till you finish college. And I didn't. But right after college, I met Ort. But no, as I said, I taught. I just substituted until after David's death, which you know. And then I signed a contract and taught in this district, in the Bonita district for, what, 35 years or so.
And you've been active in
oh yeah,
things
I've been a
going
Girl
on at La
Scout
Verne?
leader, and I've been, and now, of course, since I've retired, I am doing things that I haven't had the chance to do when I was teaching. Like I belong to the Women's Club, and I belong to the McKinley Auxiliary, and just a lot of fun things.
When you say fun things, they still are service-oriented because that's your style, to serve and to be a part of a life of giving to others. And that's been your trademark along with Ort. Tell us a little bit about your daily life, starting back in, let's say, 1948 and through that, as it relates to what was then La Verne College and now the University of La Verne.
When we came, Ort and I were dorm parents at the boys' dormitory, of which you are aware of, you being one of the boys.
Right.
And I don't know, our day was just filled with boys coming in and out, and where's this and where's that, and then, I don't know, David was over at the gym and I was over at the gym. It was just wonderful, you know.
Well, you would be a part of the athletic activities, helping with the cleaning of the equipment and so forth.
We've worked together, Ort and I. He has helped me and I have helped him, which...
Is that how partnerships and marriages
that's how it
ought
goes.
to be?
Yeah. That's how it works.
Well cast, intended for Johnson, incomplete.
We're going to get his belt off and take through his hip.
Okay.
I always took the reading. I walked in there and they told me that. What about me? Yeah, I'm sorry. All right, man.
That wasn't much fun.
You know, that wasn't any fun at all.
Straight ahead there.
Smith, the ball carrier.
34.
Austin on the stop. That play was set up by the pass from Pascal to Zerbal. Up in at the Ortmayer tribute booth.
Yeah, I'll be here. I'll be around all day. Okay. Okay. If you don't find me, I'll be around.
Who's your helper, Cornelia?
This is my youngest granddaughter. Can you say hi to Bill?
Hi.
That way.
Hi.
Trying to sell books. Is it orange now? I need ready. That's right. There it is. Now it's even. It's $19.
Carry the ball carrier.
Thank you.
Across the 25. And about the 22-yard line.
Who is that behind that?
She's got a corner of everybody's heart and a corner of this university, and Corni made such a difference, and now we can perpetuate her spirit by having a permanent Corni's Corner. Corni epitomized the La Verne spirit. She loved everyone, she cared about the people, she was personal with the people. I hope we can continue that spirit for years and years to come in Corni's memory. Well, Corni's Corner is really the refreshment stand for University of La Verne football. And people tell me it started with a card table. I think I remember that as a student. And then, of course, they built a little place at the other end of the football field that was a little more permanent. But it was Nick Diaz who said, I've worked in that place. I don't like that. I'd rather have better facilities, and I'd like to name it Corni's Corner. And Nick was really the spearhead. If you'd have asked me when he first came up with the idea whether or not he'd be successful, I would have said, I won't hold my breath, and I wouldn't bet much money on it. But Nick didn't give up, and here today we see a great Corni's Corner. Because I think when people get behind a project and say, we want this to be completed, then it's worth the investment on the part of the individuals and the university to see that it's completed. And that's what makes it a special place. It wasn't a group of paid contractors who did this. It was a group of volunteers who did it for their love of the university and the love of Corni.
You mentioned being a dorm parent, and a lot of the alumni that I've talked with, at least from the late 40s and 50s, talk about the closeness, the family atmosphere.
Oh.
What was it like in your small apartment at the dormitory?
Well, you know, it was real funny. Some years we would have a real young group of boys in the dorm. And when we had a real young group, I was called the den mother. Mm-hmm. And then when we had an older group of boys, I was called the warden. But, oh, it was real fun. I'd bake a cake, and I never did get a chance to ice one, because as soon as the kids would smell it, they'd come in and they'd, you know, what do you do when a gang of kids are standing around? You cut the cake.
Right.
So, but I don't know. We never locked the doors or anything like that. Boys were free to come and go all the time.
I don't believe that this came from you or from Ort, but a directive came down to the men students who lived in the dormitory, I suspect mostly the football players, to stop raiding your icebox. Because, as I remember, you would go in for supper and your icebox would have been cleaned out. I never heard you complain about that.
Oh, no, no.
I understand that today the football players, the other athletes, students, friends, come up to the Ortmayer house and eat dinner or take potluck, I guess.
Yeah, it's generally nachos that they come up for when they come down.
So your house is still open, even though you're not
yes.
the dorm mother
That's
anymore.
right.
Your house is still open to the students of La Verne. So
Sure.
that hasn't changed.
No.
A lot has changed at the university, but let's go back again to the late 40s and into the early 50s, the tragedy of the loss of your son.
Yes.
Extremely difficult time.
Yes.
How old was David?
David was 6.
At 6 years old. But a very special thing, if something worthy can come out of tragedy, you felt a need to get away, and the two of you were going to go off, but what happened?
We decided that we would just kind of like to just get away from the dorm. And so, of course, all the guys were around. We were talking about it and everything. And so when we left, we had 23 college kids with us, I think it was. And so we went to Zion National Park, and that there was an arch in the back country, the Kolob Arch. And few people had seen it. So he gave us a map, and so off we went. And we did see the arch. But they didn't climb up it that year, though. Tried, but didn't make it.
Couldn't find a way up to the top of the arch?
But I think it was a couple of years later that they did find a way up to the arch. And I guess some professional climber had gotten up there. You'd have to check with Ort on that. But anyhow, several of the kids went up at that time. And then, I guess the last time we went up, there were 100 and some odd from La Verne and 2 others or something. I don't know, it was some ridiculous number.
I don't want to read too much into that about the unity of purpose and that if you just trust each other, even though these were not skilled mountain climbers, these were just average students, men and women students as well, who climbed through some very precarious places to achieve something together because they believed they could do it, and they were with
working together, helping one another.
And they were with that guy that said, we can do this.
That's right.
And that's kind of a symbol of what Ort has been to so many students. You've done some other things around that kind of a trip, a spring vacation or the Easter hikes and so forth. Did that started it off, did it?
Yeah, that started it off. And then we kind of graduated, maybe, I don't know what, or maybe I just got too old to hike. I'll tell you what, Bill, the last time I climbed up out of the Grand Canyon, I turned around and looked over and I said, fill it in, I won't be back. The bottom of the canyon has seen me for the last time. But then we started floating rivers, and that was fun.
Okay, we ought to move on.
The kids that, when they were in college, took these trips with Ort. And so then one summer, one of the guys that had been on some of these trips with us says, hey, Ort, why don't you do something now so that we can take our kids? You know, we used to have so much fun. We need to do something with our children.
Way to go! Whoops!
Does everyone know where first, second, and third is? First, second. Third will be the little trees over there.
Did you take Corni for last name?
Oh my gosh.
Home
Oh no, he'll make a home run.
Are you going to float with your grandpa?
Yes.
Good.
No, she's gonna
Okay, stand by him for a minute. You're up on top.
Right with us, we need two paddlers.
Corny, what's the agenda?
Well, we're going over to the dam and put in. And
What we're going to do, leave that one?
That, Terry, that
All right.
one's Heather's and Ronnie's. They want to make sure it goes.
Sandra, when we see that feet aren't touching, we are a little critical. That means hanging on and not lifting.
Find two seats, Tom.
All right. That's put the gray one up.
Black one,
These rivers that we're going to be on, for the most part, and you don't have to accept this, but you see here, are extremely sacred to fishermen. You'll meet people today who have come here, and you will tomorrow, and you will the next day. You'll meet people that have come here from all over the world, and they are looking forward to this day.
Susie, isn't this just like old times?
I tell you, this is great.
I can live with that.
Does it bring back a rush of memories about other times?
Oh, sure. You know, you associate all these past memories with most of these people. It's great.
Yeah.
And then Mom will introduce me to somebody who knew me when I was, 3, 4. Sorry, the memory banks can't quite get it.
That you realize now what's going to be happening, that you're going to be doing the same thing. You're going to go, gosh, I remember them when they were. Hello, Erica. A little shy.
That's my bud.
I'd gone and I didn't want to go. And I hadn't been in the water 20 minutes and got whacked with the surf.
First night of football practice. Oh. But Bill, he's a good one.
He's a good one, huh?
Yes, indeed.
Or I had been teaching a class in Montana where Lewis and Clark met the mountains for several years.
A summer course?
Yes, a summer course through the university.
Okay, I'd say number 2 would be right in there.
Yeah.
Number 3 would be right. Yeah, that's
the bottom.
3 would be right in there. What would that be?
The big hole? Craig Pass? No.
Doesn't
we
show
went
it,
into.
right?
An arrogant.
Different types of salad. Green and fruit.
Oh yeah, a couple of different salads, and then somewhere I think there's something left over from lunch.
Macaroni salad.
Macaroni salad. Don't eat too much of that. Because I like it. He says so.
Looks hot.
Right over here would be fine.
Yeah, stay out of the fire there.
Okay, Kay.
With the paper.
Look at that. Start rubbing and blowing. Who's next?
Anybody want to share my rock?
This steak is a event. Steak fry is an event we've been doing in our family for 60 years at least. I don't dated exactly, but 60 years. And I'd say hardly ever does a summer go by when we have a steak fry on rocks. Sometimes we use game like elk and venison and bear and antelope, but usually it's just beef. A cheap, thin cut, round steak.
We did this before we got married.
Before you got married?
Yeah, I decided to go ahead and marry him anyhow.
Oh no, she did it one time when I was
steak's looking now?
took a bunch of young kids out down in Tennessee and we had a steak fry and a lot of rock explosions. And then she did it about 2 days with us about 2 days before our wedding in Montana. You want yours burnt?
I don't want it to move when I cut into it.
I'll quit horsing around now.
Handle everything as if it were your own.
Good idea.
Be careful with it anyway. Right this way.
Be careful.
Good regardless.
Right there.
Situated.
And what about Bill?
I'll step in when he's all set.
Somewhere in the distance.
I can always blow it up.
No, Mr. Hat, stay on.
Okay, you ready on the count of 3?
So then, right following that, then, the gang started coming up for 2 weeks, and we would visit historical points of Lewis and Clark and float the rivers and, just have a wonderful time, just great.
I hope somebody's dropping cooking crumbs or whatever so we'll know how to get out of here.
I heard it crackling in bed this morning. Somebody was up early.
Oh my gosh.
Not hot enough here. Give me 3 minutes. Well, she's getting more than her share if I do that.
Right here in our pack.
There's anything that's in life that's important.
That's true. That's one thing that you have to learn.
Yeah.
Sausages in it. In the Army, one of the things that you learn respect for right away is the cook. You were the cook in the Army, Mila? No. I used to do some cooking at Camp La Verne. There you go. My younger days. Now the problem is going to be I'm going to be ripping these along and people aren't going to be ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. You got 4 stacked up right here. That looks great, Mina.
And you would go along and not go down, as you would say, down the river or down the canyon. What would you do?
Well, at this time, it seemed that my job was to, when we would come to a place where we were going to float, then we would take all of our floating stuff out and then move our vehicles on down the road to where we were going to spend the night. And so then my job was transporting.
Chief of Transportation.
Chief of Transportation.
She has learned that it's absolutely critical for this operation to work to have equipment at a starting point and then have someone check the route, because we have so many children with us, check the route, and when she can, she rescues children from rain and cold and boredom and so on along the way, and then she's always at the terminating point to pick up people and equipment. And she's so reliable on that the whole operation functions so well, because we have a strong beginning, a help in the middle, and a strong finish. It's always there. It's Corni before.
This is the favorite fly fishing place.
So from time to time, in order to get to the good spots, you have to go onto private property then, is that it?
Uh-huh. Yes, it is. Isn't that nice?
Whose home is this?
This is Mr. and Mrs. Cameron from Salt Lake City, Hal and Rose Cameron. They've been very gracious in letting the class put in here because we came here when the class started, and they would have this little cove here, and then they could work out toward the running waters, which helps them to learn how to lean over and do what they have to do in the kayak.
How long have you been doing this, Cornelia?
Oh, let's see. This is about the 16th, 17th year, I think we've done the class. But then, you know, we had the boys' camp before that. And, oh my soul, I guess. Let's see. When was the first boys' camp? Was it? Well, Corland was about. Well, she wasn't walking. My soul. That was about 30 years ago. Now, I don't know if this, Bill, you're going to have to get out here and I guess, oh, there's the bridge right there. You'll have to get down and walk across the bridge, or this is where they're going to Portage.
Is that all of them, Peggy? Is that all of them from over on this side?
They're all gone, I think. Yep, they're all portaged over.
The little animal that's out there in the rocks, what is that?
A marmot.
A marmot.
Mm-hmm.
Are they common to this area?
Yes, they are. Rock chuck.
Now, are they just that curious? You can whistle at them and they'll stand up and come over. Do you have any idea why that is? Just curiosity, or is that similar to their mating call?
I think they think it's one of their sounds. I'm not smart enough to know that. But hey, then you can usually get a response from them.
How is that again?
Oh, it goes something like, that's the only whistle I have anyhow. That would have to call a gopher, a rhinoceros, a trout, my dog.
Corny, you said something about his tank. Fastening his tank.
Oh, I think he's tightening it up on the...
Well, he probably needs help, Cornelia. Where's his lifelong mate and friend and assistant?
But I always have an opportunity to float before and after the gang was up there, so it was just fun. Real neat group of people.
Did you always like the out of doors, or was this is what my man does, therefore I'm going to learn to like it?
It's really funny. No. Well, a little, not much. I never did camp with my family, but I thought for a while when I was in college that I would be a professional Girl Scout. Even took training at Camp Juliet Low.
Ooh. So you had taken it pretty far.
Oh, in Cloudland, Georgia, yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but you know, I decided to be a teacher, and but even at that, I spent about 35 years as a scout leader, fought with my children and otherwise.
So you were able to fulfill some of the things that you had wanted to do,
but just not
originally.
On the professional level of you know.
The boys, your boys, continue to come back. Some of them in their 50s or older. guys who were in the service in the late 40s come back to see you, recalling many wonderful times, the summer trips and...
homecoming this year was just wonderful. We saw people that had not even, well, I hadn't seen since they had graduated.
I know at homecoming, or was it at the last football game, you received a special award. Can you tell us about that?
Oh, no, I was a basket case. Well, I guess it was in the Times that Ort and I were going to be honored at halftime. Well, my daughters hid the paper from me, and I didn't know anything about it at all. And at halftime, Steve Morgan came up and says, Corny, come on, I want you to come with me. I said, well, Steve, it's halftime. Ort's not out here. He said, well, come on out here with me.
This is the president of the university, Steve Morgan.
Yes, and so, well, you know, I walked out, and then he started talking and everything, and I'm looking at him, and I thought, oh my gosh, what's this?
This day may mark a change in your role at the University of La Verne, but not your place in our hearts.
Oh.
And now Noah Gilbert, who is even older than Woody Hall because he lived there while Ort and Corni were dorm parents. Noah has also been president of the University of La Verne Alumni Association, a member of the football team, and a longtime friend of Ort and Corni's, has a presentation that he'd like to make to Cornelia Ortmayer.
And then I looked over there, and there was Noah, one of my boys from the dorm, many years ago, carrying 24 red roses.
Are you ready for your speech? And thank you for 43 years of devotion to the university.
Then they presented me with the Centennial Medal. Should have worn it.
Yes.
Oh, and then we kind of had a thing about, years ago, there was a store here in La Verne that was a fun place to go, McDermott and Green's. And so he said, well, before they closed, he was able to pick up this little item, and so then Bob Dyer brought this over to me, and I opened it, and oh my gosh, it was a pair of diamond earrings.
My. Extraordinary time. Well, a tribute to you, Corny, for the years of service, and a lot of people with all the attention that Ort has received have been saying, oh, let's be sure that Corny gets some of this attention. My response to that was that Corny knows what she's done and where she stands.
Well, I was saying, I feel just as honored as Ort does every time he gets a citation. Maybe I shouldn't feel that way.
Because you are a team and have very unassuming about your relationship. In my observations, no one has to remind you or remind someone who you are or your position with Ort. You've seen a lot of changes at the university.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to talk a little bit about what has remained constant.
I suppose it's a love, a caring about one another, and a love for people that never changes. I mean, that has always been at La Verne. Now we've added buildings and a tent and stuff like that, but basic.
Yeah, it was a very small college at that time, some 400 or 500 full-time students, and only about 200 or so on campus.
And Woody Hall, you know, was that first new building, really, you know, that we opened.
In 1948, there were 3 main buildings: Miller Hall, a women's dormitory, Founders Hall, the old gymnasium, and then this new building of the late 40s with the red tile roof, the Woody Hall.
There was a a wheat field or oats or something right there by the dorm, between the dorm and the law school now. And I remember David used to get in there, and I'd have to go upstairs of the dorm to see where he was in that wheat field to find him.
Well, you really are talking about going way back now. There are changes, and there are changes in attitudes about the role of women. I don't think I've ever heard anyone call you necessarily a traditional woman from another time. What's your whole attitude towards the women's movement and the role of a woman in a relationship with a man, or in business, or in the community? We'd like to hear that from Cornelia Ortmayer.
Really, you would?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I have been very fortunate, you understand, in that my husband has let me be me and do what I want to do.
Could he have forced you not to do that?
I don't think so.
That's what, when you say, let me, you know, a lot of women's groups would bristle at that. What do you mean, let you? But I know you, and I suspect that you would have had your way.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Cornelia knows full well that when she used the word let, she was saying, we think this way. We think this way together. It isn't let. You don't let Cornelia do anything. If I had been the kind of person that could not live with her having power, with her having full expression, she wouldn't have put up with it. She just would have said, well, so long, I got hooked into with the wrong guy.
I believe if a woman is doing the same job as a man, I think she should receive the same pay.
Okay.
I can't see any difference there in sex as far as pay and this type of thing.
And weren't you active in the union in the school system?
Oh yes, yeah.
Did it revolve in part around that very dilemma that men seem to receive more than women, or was it other issues?
No, it was other issues.
But I suspect bringing quality education to children.
Yes, that was the main thing.
Other observation about today's women, things you like, or changes that you think that you've seen or disliked?
Oh, no, I think that women have come a long way. When they used to walk behind their husbands, you know, that type of thing.
She felt confident that she could be Cornelia Bergen when she was married to Roland Ortmayer. And I feel that's true. And one of the reasons, as you know, I call her Bergens probably more than any other, probably more than Corni or Cornelia. I call her Bergens. And one of the reasons I do that is I felt she should always keep her name. She should never lose the Bergen name. Bergen. 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 Come here.
And then the school year ends, and there'll be another emotional moment, as there was at the last football game of Ort's time at the university. Then there'll be the last week of teaching and the last week as a part of the university. And then what's going to happen after that?
A new beginning.
A new beginning. Tell us about Ort. What's so special about this guy? I don't understand.
Well, I'll have to tell you this. He is the best thing that ever happened to this person right here. He's just special. The first time I met him, he was hooked and didn't know it. Didn't know it till later.
Yeah. You saw him, and that was kind of an instant...
Well, the more I was with him, he was just a person that I felt like I wanted to spend the rest of my life with.
You'll all have a special place in our hearts for as long as we live, and you'll be a part of this institution. You're a part of the foundation, a part of the bricks and mortar and the spirit that is the University of La Verne.